Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. Before we get into today's program, my many thanks to Rusty Fender for manning this chair while I dealt with some ailment over the pretty much through February. So Rusty now gets the break this week and next, and then he'll be back. Our guest today, Bill Goldsworthy, who's the Regional Director of the American Red Cross. This is an organization that goes well beyond all of the things that you hear. There are so many facets of Red Cross operations, and as it happens, it's been in the news an awful lot lately because of some pretty darn bad weather. When I used to think about Red Cross, Bill, I think I almost always thought about the blood drives, and we'll get into that because not only are they still going on, but they're perhaps more important than ever. But ironically, over the past couple of years, it's been horrible weather events that have brought Red Cross more to our attention. And perhaps this past year, more than even the last couple, because this area, I say this area meaning northeastern Pennsylvania, has pretty much been targeted by some pretty awful storms. Maybe you can kind of begin by sort of recapping the past year from the Red Cross perspective in our area. And what do we consider the coverage area for northeastern Pennsylvania?
Yeah, well, northeastern Pennsylvania, my 4 chapters, I have Luzerne, Lackawanna, Wyoming, and Susquehanna.
All right.
But we're very close, of course, to the Poconos. And there's 4 counties over there, Wayne, Pike, Monroe, and Carbon. And myself and the executive director over there, Michelle Baer, work hand in hand. And just for example, this past week with these 2 nor'easters that were back to back with all the snow, we've been very busy.
Sure.
Very busy.
And really one chapter, one area has to help the other because there's an overlap of
absolutely.
Problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we did. With the first storm, we actually opened 2 shelters here in Lackawanna County and 1 up in Wyoming County. And people don't realize what we do. For example, we had an emergency call from Wyoming County EMA saying, hey, I have a bus full of college kids who are stuck. The bus broke down and they need a place to stay. Could you open a shelter? So we went up and at the Factoryville Fire Company, we opened a shelter and put them up for the night until they were able to get a bus. But we had the cots, the blankets, the pillows, and food for them. So that's something we do on the spur of the moment. And that was in the middle of the first nor'easter that came through. And then, of course, we have a lot of people that were without power.
Yes.
And we ended up opening 2 shelters here in Lackawanna County, one at the Lakeland Junior High School and the other one at the Thornhurst Fire Company. They didn't stay open too long, like 1 day, 2 days, just enough time to get people back on their feet and power to get restored. PP&L was really on the ball with Lackawanna County getting the power back. But Monroe County and Pike County got hit the hardest.
Terrible there.
I mean, there was times when there was 75% of the county, Pike County, was without power.
For days.
Days. Yeah. It was over a week. So we assisted the Pocono chapter in setting up shelters over there, warming stations, and then we actually went out and were feeding the people at their homes. Some people still refused to leave their homes even though they didn't have power. They may have been with generators or something, but we went out and we have food that we actually deliver to people's homes out there.
Now, there's something I don't think that we heard a lot about. We hear about the shelters, and we hear a shelter is going to be open. Just think what it takes to make that sentence happen, because you've got to have a place. You mentioned the cots and the blankets. Do you have a warehouse with supplies?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have warehouses, we have trucks all ready to go. We have basically trailers that we pull to these locations, and in these trailers, depending on what we think we're going to need, we have some trailers with a setup of 50 cots, blankets, pillows, and the other ones are set up for 100. So depending on how big of a size shelter we think we're going to need. But the other part is it's all run by volunteers, David. You know, we have myself, 4 counties, we have 5 employees.
Oh my goodness.
Monroe County to Poconos, they have 5 employees. So you got 10 employees to cover 8 counties, but we have about 700 dedicated volunteers between the two of us that are out there that do all the work, honestly.
Now, they've got to set the cots up, get the blankets in place. They've got to obviously get to the place themselves.
Absolutely.
And that hasn't been easy during these nor'easters.
No, it hasn't been.
Just movement is very, very difficult.
Yeah, and the other thing, you got to register people when they come in. And don't forget, if they have pets, we got to see if we have a pet-friendly shelter to make sure we take care of the pets for them. If they have medication needs, we have people that do that. We actually have spiritual care because it's devastating when you're, especially for older, elderly people, that if they're taken out of their home and out of their environment, they may need some spiritual care to assure them that everything is okay. And we have spiritual care volunteers that we call on to come out and help. And we also have volunteer nurses that'll come out, and doctors, medical staff that'll come out and assist in that realm if need be.
You touched on something there I don't want to just pass over. You mentioned that when you have a shelter, that everyone making use of that shelter is registered, they're signed in. Why is that important?
Well, that's for, as we call it, family reunification. So if you were taken out of your home and there's no power and your relatives from away are looking for you, they don't know if where you're at, if you're okay. So if they know there's a Red Cross shelter, and we also have it on our websites, we have a place on our website you could go to and inquire, hey, is Dave DeCosmo okay up there in Pike County? And we have a listing, so we make sure that we can let your family members know that, yes, indeed, you're okay, you're at our shelter, or no, we haven't heard of him, we don't know who he is, but we'll try and get somebody to go look and see.
Well, when it comes to the volunteers and the equipment for a shelter, again, the cots, etc., those are ready to go. When it comes to the food, you're talking about an expense.
Yes.
How is that covered?
Well, that's sort of where management, me, I come in. I try and get local restaurants to donate food. If we don't get enough restaurants, or if they can't prepare it because they're without power, we try and get whatever we can donated. But we do rely a lot on FEMA and PEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Organization, and the Pennsylvania Emergency Management, who has a stockpile of boxed food, if you will.
I see.
Matter of fact, they did send us a big shipment up for Pike County this week, and in their meals was basically a package of tuna, already prepared, it's mixed. So you just rip it open and get a spoon and start eating it. And a lot of snacks and some healthy things like that. And water, of course, is a necessity. We always get plenty of water donated.
Sure. Now, you can get prepared for a storm. And you can be as prepared as you hope you are. Now you have a second storm. Now you have threats of a third storm. So, I mean, there has to be a limit to how much can be gathered.
Actually, the biggest problem we've been having with these consecutive storms is our volunteers need a break too. They need a little rest, and we try and rotate volunteers to give them a rest. But we're prepared. We could always bring in volunteers from another area if need be. This particular storm affected from Philadelphia up to our area, so we had the whole eastern side of Pennsylvania. We had 12 shelters opened up at one time. And we had a lot of people that we were sheltering overnight. And a lot of people just came during the day to take a shower, make a hot meal or get a hot meal, and then they went back because they didn't want to leave their homes. So there's a lot of different aspects of sheltering people in a situation like this.
I can't stress how important it is and how meaningful, and I have some personal experience in this case, because years ago we had an explosion at a fireworks manufacturing facility in our area. Unfortunately, a fatality situation. And just as a newsman, I'm assigned to cover the story, and you're out in the field for an entire day, and they don't always think about about the media demands that are made. And fortunately, we were able to go to an area church where, thanks to Red Cross, we were able to get a meal in the midst of all this coverage that went on and on and on. Now that brings up another thought, that when you have a devastating storm such as the first northeaster that we had, or even the second, home fires don't stop happening.
No.
While those storms are happening.
No.
Fires can be in an area far away from those areas affected by the storms. And yet a Red Cross responsibility is to handle people who have been devastated by a home fire.
Absolutely. And this past week, as I mentioned, we had 12 shelters opened up in our, we call Eastern region, from Philadelphia up to here.
Right.
In that same week, we had 44 house fires that we had to take care of, over 235 people.
Wow.
From those fires. And actually there was a fire down in the Allentown area that involved some deaths also, which is a whole nother issue, because that's where we get our spiritual care team in again.
Sure.
But yeah, fires don't stop. So we had 44 of those besides all the sheltering for the storm itself.
I've always been amazed, though, what Red Cross can do for somebody whose home has been hit by a fire, and they suddenly find themselves without a place to stay. Their home is gone, at least temporarily, while the initial cleanup takes place. They've very often lost virtually all of their clothing because of, if nothing else, smoke damage and such. Perhaps you can give us an insight as to how you step in and help.
Yeah, what we do is we got to be called, first of all, by the fire department. If we're not called, we don't just show up.
Sure.
So we do have to be notified and get there. And when we do, we like to sit down with the family that's been devastated, see what their actual needs are. Again, you know, if there's animals, you also take care of the animals and children and the family. If they lost all of their clothing, we usually have a little bit of clothing. We're not in the clothing business, but we usually have some, at least if they ran out of the house without a shirt on, we can give them a shirt
Some
to put
initial
on.
need.
Yeah. But more importantly, we see what their needs are, how many people are in the family, and we'll give them a shelter. We'll put them up in a hotel for, depending on the size of the family and their needs, usually anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 nights. And we give them basically like a gift card that they could also buy some important needs. They still got to work.
Sure.
Okay, so if, hypothetically the husband has to go to work the next day and he doesn't have clothes, he could use that gift card to go buy a quick pair of clothes, at least so he could get to work.
All right.
And also for food, it's used for food. So we help them out in that, but also, you know, the biggest thing, and I went through the flood of 2011, you know what you need the most? You need a hug. You know, and we're there for assurance that, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then that initial thought, like, you don't even think about notifying your insurance company. What are they going to do for me? And that's some of the steps we work with them. We assign them a counselor that will work with them through all of those steps and help make it easy for them.
Because they're lost in the emotion
Absolutely.
of the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But David, one of the big things that has happened now over the course of this past week with all these storms is the need for blood. You know, you touched on it in the beginning.
Yeah, because it's the first thing that I used to think about with regard to Red Cross was the need for blood and the blood drives. Yeah. So why are we suddenly facing a bigger need than ever?
Well, because over the past week we had a lot of blood drives canceled.
Because of the storm?
Because of the storms.
I see.
So we're in desperate need of the blood drives, and we have a lot of them coming up in the area, and I hope you don't mind. I just want to mention a few.
Please go over.
Coming up, well, this week there's one in Tunkhannock at the Anytime Fitness Center. Lockheed Martin's having one in Archbald. The Veterans of VFW up in Einan. TMG Health at Valley View Business Park in Jessup. They're all this week, and coming up in the following weeks, we have Misericordia University. We have the Moose Lodge in West Pittston. Bank of America and Music, Gentex up in Carbondale, and also Kevin's Wholesale right here in Scranton, and the West Scranton High School. So they're the new ones that are coming up in the next week.
And Bill, is there a place where someone can check online to see the schedule of
yes, they can.
blood drives?
They can go to redcross.org/blood, and there'll be a list of all the local blood drives and the times. And of course, we do have a blood collection center right here in Scranton and one in Wilkes-Barre. The Scranton one is open on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturdays, and Sundays. And I encourage you, you know, one donation of blood could save 3 lives.
Is that right?
And because of the need right now, because of all the cancellations we've had with this storm and the numerous storms, we need help. So we need your blood.
So you need those donors. How about the volunteers that man those drives?
We're always in need of volunteers, and you know, right now what we're saying is, if you want to volunteer, we could use you. We have different volunteer positions. Yes, we set up shelters with volunteers. Yes, we feed people with volunteers. Mm-hmm. At blood drives, you sit and register people. When they get done donating blood, you take them over to a table where they get a snack and some liquid refreshments. We need people to man those tables. So we're always in need of volunteers. I know previously, last year on your show, I mentioned about what we do up the Veterans Hospital. We need volunteers to work with the veterans. So there's always volunteers, and a lot of people get the misconception that, you know, they hear about the Red Cross, like this year we were very busy with all the hurricanes down south in Texas and Puerto Rico and Florida. They think, oh, if I join, I got to volunteer, I got to go to Texas, I got to go. You sign up for that as a special need. Okay. We don't just say, okay, you're a volunteer, you're going. We don't do that. You have to actually, I have to say this, we have 2 volunteers from Scranton who are amazing, but that's all they want to do is go on what we call deployments. And they were recently, last week, they're 2 sisters, elderly sisters from Scranton, who were in Indiana, state of Indiana.
Oh my goodness.
For the floods that were out there. They were in Texas. They were in, they didn't go to Puerto Rico. I think they were in Atlanta or somewhere down there also.
But some want to do that.
They love to do that. But we need local volunteers. You know, we need the ones that are going to work the blood drives. We need the ones that are going to be up to the Veterans Hospital. And we need the ones that are willing to go out and take care of those people when they have a house fire.
But Bill, I can see where some people who may be watching may say, I've got the time and I've got the inclination to help. Do I have the expertise?
We train you all, and while I'm talking about that, I want to hold this up, and at the bottom of this is where you could sign up on our website to be a volunteer. But we train you fully for whatever you want to do. If you say you want to volunteer at a blood drive, we will tell you what you have to do, show you what you have to do, and train you. If you want to be, maybe you want to be a CPR instructor or first aid instructor, we teach you what you have to do. Everything is done by the book. We have a very intense program of training. Some of it is simple. You know, obviously, if you're registering people, it's very easy. You know, if you're registering people at a blood drive. If you're doing stuff at a fire, handing out our cards for the hotels and the food, there's a little work to it, and you got to put it on a computer system. So, but we teach you what to do. So
that's important, because I think they know, if they know that they'll get that little tutoring that they need for a particular type of service, they'll be more likely to come out and join up. I want to hit on another program that you folks are running. This is interesting because I think about it because I watch television. Now, one of the most popular television shows right now is a program about a family. It's called This Is Us. It's run on NBC. And it's a story that basically deals with a family, but it deals with the family as it was growing and then as it is now, and there are flashbacks. Well, the lead character, been an awful lot of national publicity about this, the lead character perishes because of a fire in his home, He wasn't aware of the fire in time because they didn't get smoke detector batteries. Well, now, fortunately, because of flashbacks, that character will stay in the story. But you folks started a program a couple years back now. It's been so impressive to me where you're making a real effort to get smoke detectors out there. Tell us about that project.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, David. You could hold that.
Okay.
What we do is we install free smoke alarms. They're 10 years guaranteed. You don't have to change the battery.
Oh, gee.
They're 10-year guaranteed smoke alarms. We started this about 2 years ago here, a little over 2 years ago here in my chapter when I took over. And just last year alone, we installed 3,500 smoke alarms, which brings our grand total up to over 10,000 free smoke alarms that we put in. And the nice thing what we do is we don't give this to you and say, hey, here's your free smoke alarm, and hopefully you'll put it up. What we do is we make an appointment. We'll come out, survey your home, and put them in the proper position, install them, and give you a 5-minute training on how to escape from a home fire. Because a lot of people don't think about, oh, if there's a fire on the second floor, I'll just go down the steps. But if the fire's at the bottom of the steps,
where do you go?
Where do you go? So we teach you like to think about how you get out onto a porch roof, for example.
Sure.
It's an important program, and I happen to be a past fire chief, volunteer fire chief, so it's real important to me.
Yes.
Because I know how important it is. And you only have a minute to get out of a home, and it's not the fire that's going to kill you or hurt you. It's the smoke.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
And more deaths from smoke inhalation
Absolutely.
Than flames.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this year, the Red Cross, we're proud to say that we've installed our 1 millionth free smoke alarm across the country.
You try to do it a community at a time, too, don't you?
Yes.
When you can.
Yep. We actually have 2 events coming up in May. We have an event down in the Hazelton, West Hazelton area, and we have one in 40 Fort in Kingston. 40 Fort Kingston one is May 12th. And we will be installing free smoke alarms that Saturday in conjunction with the Kingston Fire Department and a lot of organizations. We look for volunteers for that, by the way. We're talking about volunteers.
Sure, you've got to get people to get out there and put them in.
So we look for anybody who wants to volunteer. It could be a church group. It could be a Boy Scout group. It could be the Rotary Club. It could just be someone that says, boy, you know what? That's a great program. I want to help. And again, we do the training. We start off at 9 a.m. on May 12th, that Saturday, in Kingston Fire Department. We'll do about an hour training, provide coffee at 9 a.m. And we'll teach you, because there's different parts of a team. It's a 3 or 4 man team that we go out in. And we're going to canvass a huge area of Kingston and 44th that day.
Now, if someone's watching and perhaps their community has already been taken care of, but they've been missed somehow, can they call Red Cross to perhaps try to get one installed?
Absolutely. They could call our office. The best place is our Wilkes-Barre office, and they could call 846-3328. That's 846-3328, and that's a direct line to our smoke alarm campaign office. Leave their name, number, and tell them they're interested in receiving free smoke alarms.
I'm extremely big on smoke alarms. I make sure that ours are always up to date. One reason is because that's how we can tell when the pizza is done in our oven. It tends to send off the smoke detector. So at least I know the detector is working, and my wife knows that the pizza is ready.
There you go.
Here again, you've got expenses involved, though. How do you cover your expenses? I mean, is this also a donation kind of thing, or?
Yes, it is. We have a couple major corporations that really come out and support this in a big way. Locally, the biggest corporation that supports us with this is UGI.
Yes.
UGI gives a major contribution every year to the Red Cross to help us supply the smoke alarms. But again, on those days when we have these events, I'm the guy out there trying to get free food donated so we could feed all the volunteers.
Sure.
But we originally got some, we call them our home fire campaign trailers. We got them through the Moses Taylor Foundation. I got them donated through a grant. We have them supplied with equipment that was donated, drills, ladders, screws, and stuff that we need to put up the smoke alarms. We had a local electrician, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name, but donated his time and wired the trailers so that these battery-powered drills, when we're done with them, we just stick them in the trailer on a side.
Charge them again.
Charges them automatically.
Yeah.
So it's a great campaign, and you know, it costs money, it costs time, it costs volunteers, and volunteers runs our organization, and we're always looking for more.
Well, please keep that in mind, everyone. I don't know of a single agency that helps more people in so many ways, but yet depends on your help to make sure that that help can continue. So if you have any inclination to help out the Red Cross by way of being a blood donor, by virtue of being a volunteer at those blood donation drives, by virtue of just being ready to help during a fire, during one of these storm emergencies, please, again, contact Red Cross and Bill. The call is the best way to get through to you, I guess?
Call or email, or go on the website if you want to sign up to volunteer or donate.
Right.
And if I'll do a quick plug here.
Please, yeah.
March is Red Cross Month, designated by the President for the past 50 years or so. President Trump has designated March as Red Cross Month, and March 28th is what we call Giving Day. We look for donations. It's a day we really solicit money.
Right.
And you could do it in 2 ways. Go to redcross.org/Giving Day, or you can just text Red Cross to 90999 and make a $10 contribution, and it's always appreciative.
Sure, and it's so well used, all of the resources, Red Cross. Bill, I compliment you. I compliment all of your volunteers for the wonderful work you've been doing during these storms, and the work that people don't always see behind the scenes at individual events that may not get all the news attention that the storms do. So please keep up the good work, and we'll make sure you're back here to talk about what's been going on and what the needs are. Red Cross Month, what a perfect time to have you here, Bill.
It is, it was perfect.
Bill Goldsworthy, the Regional Director of the American Red Cross, I thank you again. I'm David DeCosmo for ECTV Live. Mark McGlory is the guy who keeps us in focus and keeps the lights on. And I will see you again next week. Until then, here's hoping all your news is good.